This is the 173rd episode of CloudFocus Weekly for the second week of April 2014. This episode is titled Heartbleeding Wedding. CloudFocus Weekly is brought to you by Compliance Walker, built by Arkus. Capture all chatter posts, deletions, and files available for free on the App Exchange. Take it for a spin at compliance-locker.com. Or you can just search Compliance Locker on the App Exchange. I'm your host, Jason Albert, and joining me, co-host, 173 times in, shaking his head no as I read something, the name of the podcast. Says no to that, but he is saying yes to doing a podcast this week. It's Justin Nelson. Justin, how are you doing?
You make it as though I said no last week.
You did.
No.
We were on the train on the way back from...
Oh, knock it off.
You were like, oh, I can't do it.
That's not true. We were just like too much train sound.
Too much? Is that what we said?
Yeah, we said we would do it, but it was just too loud. Actually, I think the reason we really didn't do it is because we didn't get seats with the table across from each other.
Probably.
And then we probably would have,
maybe done it.
Done one.
Right. Well, we're bad podcasters.
It was April Fool's. It was like, April Fool's, no podcast.
And then next week, no podcast.
Yeah, because that's your fault.
That's my fault. And then we got like 3 weeks till you have the wedding of the century.
We'll do some pre-recordings.
We got a couple we're going to set up. We're going to be sitting in a room and do like 6 podcasts. It'll be interesting. At some point, we could do a work.com podcast.
Yeah, that'd be a fun one.
That is a fun one. All right, well, this week, or today... we got some other fun ones. So we have a bunch of blogs. We have a blog backlog. Oh, wow, it rhymes. Must be true.
Is it a weblog?
A weblog. I hate blog. So we have Getting Started with Salesforce. And then we have Managing My Wedding on Salesforce. Which one did you write?
I wrote the Managing My Wedding on Force.com, and it was a rather popular post.
So you're not using accounts and contacts?
Are
you actually in a Force.com org, or are you actually in a Salesforce org? What's your license?
Full EE.
So then why Force.com?
Because actually I probably should have called it Salesforce1, because I don't know if they refer to Force.com much anymore, because it's mostly custom objects. It's accounts, contacts, and custom objects. So Force.com.
That doesn't make Force.com at all.
Yeah, it does, because Force.com is accounts and contacts and custom objects. That's exactly what Force.com is.
But Force.com is a license as well.
But Force.com is a platform, more than a license.
Does Force.com let you report on an object that has 16,000 or 18,000 records and have it come up in less than a minute?
It should.
All right. We're going to be throwing in our jabs at Spring 14 throughout this podcast. So listen in.
Yikes. For those who haven't gotten Spring 14 yet.
Stuff is
There's
broken.
Still people who don't have it.
We can talk about that at the end. We'll leave on a positive note. So you on blog.arkusinc.com wrote a blog post called Managing My Wedding on Force.com.
Yep.
Best part of the whole blog post was the image of the clouds.
You like that?
That was it.
That was
good.
The best
part.
That was good.
The rest of it was kind of useless.
Come on.
But so give me a little hint and then tell people why they should go read it.
What do you mean a hint?
Well, tell me a little bit what the blog post was about.
It was about how I pretty much took a developer org. I did take a developer org, a Salesforce.com developer org, and built out a way for myself and my future wife to manage all aspects of our wedding inside of Salesforce, using accounts for households, contacts for the actual people within the household. There's a gifts object, there's a vendor object, there's a venue object, there's a bunch of reports and a dashboard, a nifty dashboard.
Nice.
The reports for like people who've RSVP'd.
Nice.
The gifts, obviously, like people who've gotten gifts, and so that we can track when we sent the thank you notes.
Like this fine,
like that salt and pepper shaker you're staring at right now.
Live from the Justin
Podcast Studio 3.
Yeah, we call LAC 3.
Yeah. This is LAC 2.
LAC 2, Podcast Studio 3.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nifty little product. We've adopted Chatter between the two of us. She mostly asks for feature requests in Chatter, and I then...
Great, she's not an admin.
She is not an admin.
You did not let her have
No.
Did you give her a permission set to control things?
No, I just gave her a profile.
Because there was one user.
Wedding user profile.
Wedding user. Should have said future wife profile. That's all.
Well, I kind of thought for a second that
you're gonna package it up.
No. I thought for a second that because I had another profile, it was like a light user profile that was a chatter user. Because I thought for a minute that we might invite our parents in to just use chatter and like do that, but then we thought better of that and decided not to. But mostly
they could manage the budget, they could see things you're paying for.
Mostly the best things are the reporting aspects, and we've actually used campaigns for certain things.
Okay.
Like the rehearsal dinner invites and
nice.
Who's responded, who's RSVP'd, things like that.
But you didn't send them out from Salesforce.
No. Yeah. We just did an evite.
So I think it's on the Arkus blog. Interesting, right? He has a screenshot or two. I think what it's nice is that we always think when we talk about a lot about the CRM aspects, but there's almost nothing that when you start to think about it doesn't have some sort of connection to like people or something or some places or and so you build a couple of custom objects. People on the success community were saying, why don't you sell it?
Yes, people were asking me if I'd sell it or package it. I'm not planning on doing any of those things.
And honestly, if you're a Salesforce admin and you can't put it together.
Yeah, I did this in a couple hours. That's why I won't package it, because I'd be embarrassed by it, because I did it in a couple hours.
Right.
Like if I really put some time and more thought into it, it'd probably be a little better, but I just needed something, and I didn't want it to be a Google Sheet.
I mean, the only thing I could say for a product, and maybe this exists, hey, go out there and build it, but it would be like if a wedding planner could like install a package that did this, but then did it for different couples.
Yeah.
So she could create the couple and basically say, okay, then they get like maybe success login, community logins, then they can manage all this stuff, and she kind of just gives it to them as part of the wedding planning package. Oh, and here's your logins to the wedding package builder.
There you go.
Right.
That's it. We just came up with the product on the fly. Wedding planner force.
So I have something the other day. Someone's like, oh, you should do that with your... Oh, that's a little bit off topic. But so my brother-in-law just had a baby, and they're doing breastfeeding. And actually, your sister.
Yeah, I'm doing the
not
same.
Not trying to talk about your sister's breast, but I'm just saying because...
But yeah, she's doing that too.
Right, so she's doing breastfeeding. So one of the issues with breastfeeding going between the bottle and the breast is, you know what they call it?
No.
They call it nipple confusion.
Okay.
So the child... This podcast just...
This is just awful.
No, it's good. No, it's good. It's baby talk. It's okay.
Okay.
So nipple confusion is when the child is... doesn't recognize the difference between the mother's nipple and the nipple of the bottle. And so sometimes because the nipple of the bottle is so much better at producing tons and tons of milk,
yeah,
right, because it's just sitting there and takes less work, the kids start to not want to go to the breast.
Okay.
So I came up with this product in my head, which probably already exists, where it's called, I don't know, mynipple.com or something. So
why is it a .com? It sounds like it's not a .com.
No, it's a .com. So you go, you order a package, they send it to you, right? And then you take an imprint of both of your breasts using something that we send you in your I've already started this company that we send, and then you put that back into the thing. You send it back to us, and then we build you
your breasts
nipples for the. So so there's no confusion.
No,
because the same nipple on the bottle is your actual.
All right, moving right along.
Wait, is there a limit to how many times I can say nipple on a clean podcast?
No, nipple's a clean word.
I think it is.
It's totally legit.
I almost. This podcast just went unbelievably. All right, so best practices for getting started with Salesforce.com.
Oh, is that another one?
How can you actually get from talking about nipples to best practices? So this is actually a fan request. We've had people ask.
Is it really?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it is. Totally is. People have asked us to say, like, what would you give us for some, like, if you're going to start with Salesforce? And we kind of put out these once in a while on the blog to sort of, just sort of the getting started. Because sometimes we get into the deep, deep stuff, like how to do this. And sometimes, this is like one of those starter series. So if you're just getting started with Salesforce, here's some best practices, kind of going through just a little bit of, what you should be looking out for, maybe who you should get involved. Again, there's lots of moving parts, and that's kind of why, that's why we have a company. But anyway, we put some of that on our blog under the best practice for getting started with Salesforce.com. So 2 great blog posts, both on the blog. Go read them, and that makes up for any number of our missing podcasts. Next up, Salesforce1. So we went to Salesforce1 in Boston. We'll give a quick...
Salesforce1 Tour.
The
tour.
It's not Salesforce1, the product. Salesforce1,
the
tour, or the platform.
It's the tour.
It's the tour. So I hadn't been to one of these. I guess I went to the New York one. So I guess I went to the New York and the Boston one. They're sort of replacing...
Did you go to this latest New York one?
Yeah.
You were there?
We were there.
Oh, we arrived at different times.
Right, but we were both there.
We were.
We both left together, as I remember.
Yeah, we did leave together.
Yes. So this is Salesforce's, smaller than a CloudForce, right?
I think this is CloudForce.
But it's
moving
much
forward.
smaller.
CloudForce doesn't exist.
I'm sure that these are just because they're in hotels. They're kind of half days.
That's how they used to be.
Yeah, I think they're much easier to put on, and so their idea is probably it's easier to put these on once.
They're full days though. They're not half days.
No, but they're not. I think.
What's this?
I guess that's
they're
true.
a full day. It started at like 8 a.m. and it went till 6. How's that not a full day?
That's true.
That's to me a full day.
That's true.
There's a keynote.
There's a
It's
keynote.
not always Mark Benioff,
It's not
but
Mark this time.
it's a keynote. Depends what city you're going to.
So, how do you like the Salesforce1 tour in Boston? What do you think?
It was different than the ones in New York, just because it was like
The accents were different.
No. I mean,
More
people
Red Sox hats.
No hats were being worn. Just different. It was just a different space because it was a convention center,
Right.
but it was a small convention center.
Well, we were also in like half of it. Like upstairs was like walking around a maze. It was like a billion little rooms.
I thought the expo floor was nice. It was as it normally is. I think it was actually nicer than the one that was just recently in New York, which was
the one
really tiny.
Yeah, it was like in a tiny little
useless.
room. Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty good. I got to go to a session. The session I went to is in the keynote room, which I thought was really a nice room, actually.
It was like
circular. It was very like welcoming, I thought. And I generally thought it was a good show. Some good networking, saw some people. There was a Ask an Expert booth that was staffed by MVPs.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I was a maybe going, maybe not going, so I couldn't commit to staffing the booth. Otherwise, I would have committed to an hour. I would have given them an hour of my time.
Yep.
But I couldn't do that because I wasn't sure I was going. I think you were in the same boat.
Yeah, I actually had meetings that I had to go do. I wasn't there just for the ride.
No, I didn't. I guess I had a couple people I had to meet too, but I could have squeezed in an hour at the booth. But yeah, I thought it was a good show. Nothing new, really. Nothing like here's some new stuff. No, it was the same stuff. We did not see the keynote, but
Nope.
I heard it was just pretty much the same,
Right.
but not by Mark Benioff,
Right.
so not as good.
Well, you got to get new people doing it, trying it.
Yeah, I mean, no one's going to take over the big opening keynote at Dreamforce anytime soon, but these regional events, somebody's, you can't expect the CEO of a company to fly around at this point, at this size of the company, to go do these keynotes.
Best part for me was seeing one of our clients, One United Bank, get up and talk and show off, or I guess talk, they didn't actually show, but talk about something we built for them. So that was pretty cool. And,
That was fun.
And it was neat because afterwards a lot of people came up, oh, you guys built that for them? That's really great. So that was neat. It was fun to see. I think that's it for us for Salesforce1 events. I think they're all over the place, but
They're
we're not
everywhere.
going anywhere else.
No. If we go anywhere, it would be, Philly maybe, or DC
Atlanta?
maybe?
Chicago
Chicago would be a good one, probably.
Chicago's nice. All right.
San Francisco?
No. Next up is really not a topic of discussion, more of a... I don't even know what to say, because I don't know enough about it to really dig in, but it's kind of hard to not talk about one of the biggest things hitting the internet in the last 24, 48 hours, which is the Heartbleed Virus, which is a 2-year-old bug in the OpenSSL code base that basically allows for what is supposed to be a secure connection between two people, and with keys and private keys that can talk securely. Basically, there's been a bug in it that you can take over one of the sides. This is massive because it didn't just affect one website, like Target gets hacked or whatever. There's an article, and I think that's why I'm just sort of talking about it. There's an article on Mashable. There's two, actually. There's one about Heartbleed, what to do. So it kind of talks about how to, what you need to do as an individual.
In this article,
yes,
the most disturbing part about this bug, or this, would you call this a bug, or would you call this, I guess they're calling it a bug. I would call it maybe an exploit, but whatever.
A bug that you can take advantage of is an exploit. There you
go. So, they're saying, like, the good news is that some ethical hacker found it, right? Like a company found the exploit, and not a real hacker who's done some damage. But the bad news is you wouldn't know if a real hacker did any damage. So I don't know how you could make that statement and be like, the good news is nobody's actually done anything about it as far as hacking is concerned. The bad news is you wouldn't know if they did.
I just can't imagine something that's been around for a couple of years has not been
exploited in
some way.
Yeah, dangerous.
And the list, the other one, so there's another one. There's another one that lists off all the main websites and whether they were affected or not.
I was really happy to see that. The ones that you really, really want to trust, like your, government, like tax, I'm logging in, paying my taxes, my bank accounts, my credit cards, those guys are like, yeah, no, we're good.
Right.
Some of the other ones, the more like, flim-flam, social networky, newfangledy websites are like, yeah, but we fixed it.
I like that they listed Minecraft. Like, you know what?
Yeah.
That's what I'm concerned about.
They listed Minecraft, but not Salesforce.com.
They did not. I do not know. Actually, we should go to Trust. Let's see. Here, if Trust is good. Oh, yep, here. An update to road named Heartbleed, which affects a number of apps and services. There is no impact to Salesforce.com.
Great. Good for Salesforce.
So it
really
depended what SSL package they use. And
Google was impacted.
Yes, because they use an open source one. It's actually a big hit for open source stuff, too. Because it
sounds that way.
Yeah. Anyway, go read up on it. That's the only reason I'm mentioning this podcast is go read up on it. Try not to freak out. I'm trying to think of does two-factor should protect you in terms of usernames and passwords. It's going to protect you because that second factor wouldn't allow them to get in. But if this bug was out there for long enough, they got the information in between, which is even worse, like private information. So anyway,
I just wish people could see the hand motions and things that you were doing, like over here on this side with this hand, and then over here on this side it shakes this hand.
Sometimes the only way to get through
hand puppets
is hand puppets.
It's the only way.
Sometimes the only
ever.
Way. Speaking of hand puppets, big announcement as we get back to Salesforce stuff. I guess this is kind of like an all Salesforce podcast.
Okay.
Oh, because we just mentioned it at the end of that one.
We did, that's true.
Dreamforce App moves to Success.
Good for Success. Way to go, Success community.
Yeah.
Soon, right? This week?
Yeah. So if you have not been following along or do not know what I'm talking about, Dreamforce, 3 years ago, came out with basically a chatter org that they allowed registrants of Dreamforce to use. And over the years, they have built up the functionality. So it started off with just you get to log in. First, it was like an option to log in. Then it became you had to acquire. Then it became you had to register and you do your hotel in there. It basically was a huge test bed for chatter and communities. It could be the birth of sort of a big community because they were using it as they built it out. Funny enough, they're not going to kill it off because it really wasn't built on communities. Whereas success.salesforce.com was built on communities, the new product, and is scalable and doesn't have as many issues. So the Dreamforce app, there's the spin is the Dreamforce app moving to Success Community, but the underlying thing is none of the stuff in there is moving. It's just you now use Success to register for Dreamforce. Interesting. To do your hotels, to do all that management will happen inside the Success Community where it belongs.
Right.
The weird part is it brings in people who are not Salesforce users into the Salesforce community.
Correct.
Because now registrants of Dreamforce can now get into Salesforce community, which I think is a little bit of a problem just because it's kind of kills the community piece of it.
Well, it might be a different... I don't know what the underlying thing is. I haven't read up on like what exactly they're doing, and I doubt they would actually tell you like precisely what they're doing, but it could be a somewhat separate community that you maybe single sign on to one or the other, perhaps.
I think it's all on the same thing from what I remember.
So what's the problem with having non-Salesforce users inside of this community as Dreamforce users?
Because part of what makes a community is a common bond around something, and I think the nice thing, although there's plenty of issues in the Salesforce community, aka that I have 50-something profiles in the Salesforce community, because basically every login gets a profile. But now I think it opens it up, because it was sort of just for people who are users, or just for licensed users who are allowed to get in. So it's kind of like a little walled community, a big one, a lot of people, over 1 million, but it was still for Salesforce users. Now, the overlap in the Venn diagram, right? Salesforce users and Dreamforce registrations. I'm doing more hand motions.
Lots of them.
It's probably 90% that are Dreamforce attendees and Salesforce users. But I could see this percentage of people who are... one of the things that we fought in the Dreamforce app for a long time was spam and like self-promotional stuff, and I feel like that came from people who aren't involved in the Salesforce community more than people who are sort of getting into it because it's a conference. And a conference website and community is very different than I've been a Salesforce user for 10 years community. So I think there's going to be an issue there. There's also, I don't know about free registration and other stuff like that. Does it really just open it up? I also like the idea of Salesforce community only being for licensed users. I think that's a nice thing.
We'll see how they do it.
Yeah, so we'll see. But
we'll see very soon.
The bad part is that all your great chatter,
Yeah.
all your great groups, including the amazing CloudFocus weekly podcast chatter group inside the Dreamforce app,
It's gone.
will disappear. Now, I'm still fighting them. Hopefully, I'm trying to say, because you could take a group and at least just take the basics of the data and just move it. Not even just the description, the links, the whatever. Not the users. I know the users is impossible. But how about just move the group and then give the person the ability to go pick it back up again. So files. I mean, there's stuff that you put in. So it's a little bit that I'm not too happy that they're killing all that off. Plus, for us who've been in that one for years and years and years, we've built out our profile. We've followed billions of things. We've done stuff. And so now you kind of lose all that.
You do.
It's kind of like Twitter shutting down and be like, yeah, we're going to shut down this Twitter, but we're going to start up this new Twitter. But you kind of have to re-register and kind of have to redo and get your 2,000 followers again. You wouldn't be happy. You personally, because that would even the playing field.
I'd be so mad.
That'd be even the playing field, and then I could catch up to you. Yes?
I like the idea of having it all in one place. It's that's the way it is. You gotta migrate at some point. So.
Yeah, but there's no migrating. It's dead.
You know what? For what it was pretty darn cool for a while, right? You had this conference portal, and not many conferences do that. So now you're getting it hopefully even better and hopefully more sustainable.
Speaking of things that are sustainable, well, now this next segment of the podcast is called Things That We're Upset About in Spring 14. You start.
So, I don't really have so many things, plural. I have one thing.
You literally started off this podcast before we get on and said this is the worst release ever.
Well, based on the lag, that it was delayed twice. This was supposed to have been released, 2 months ago. and it's still buggy. Like, we have it now in our production org.
Yep.
We have records that have embedded charts. Those embedded charts no longer work. They just spin and you get an error code. They said they fixed it. They didn't fix it. Now you get a different error code. So they made a better error code.
It says an internal server error has occurred. Error ID. Now let me read these off. 606-931-737-80159-210934684.
The old error I actually thought was more interesting because it basically just said this ID is not a valid filter for this report. So it's basically trying to pass through like some invalid filter because, you know, when you click on these records, it's actually filtering the report based on the record that you're looking at.
That's correct.
So I was like, all right, that makes sense. Something's wrong. This one doesn't make sense. It's just like, oh, there's bad stuff going on.
Right.
And like I said a couple weeks ago on the podcast, I really feel like that reporting and analytics engine is just not performing right now. And this is just another testament to what I believed, and I stick to it, that there's something wrong with that reporting engine, and it could have to do with it's being taxed, it's being asked to do too much. The reporting API now out there, these embedded charts, chatter topics, maybe leveraging that engine somehow to query. I don't know, but there's just maybe too much going on because things are breaking, and I don't really remember things breaking this much in past releases. I remember there was one really bad release like 3 or 4 years ago where stuff like broke, and it was like, oh, this is a really big deal. But this one was pushed back so that things wouldn't break, and things are broken. Right. And I find that hard to stomach.
Yeah, I know it's a lot of data, and it's a lot of moving parts, and I always feel very, I feel like you put out 3 releases a year, you put out hundreds of features, you're gonna have some that go wrong, and you're definitely gonna have issues. I think I said on this podcast, or maybe I said to someone the other day, I feel like they should take a break. I feel like they should take one release, one cycle off of this 3 releases a year, and I know it kills the whole marketing, whatever, but literally just take a cycle off and fix. Like, go back and make sure that all the stuff that you kind of said, oh, we'll handle it next time, or maybe we should do that, or I don't know, and just take a cycle off and kind of, because it seems like, this is what our comment was before we got on the podcast, summer dates and whatever already being...
Like, stop the marketing machine, guys.
Right.
This thing's broken.
It's being driven...
I don't want to hear about summer.
Right. It's being
I just got spring, and it's broken.
Right.
I don't want to hear about summer. Tell me about summer when spring is working.
How about fall?
Fine. Let's do fall.
Right.
And then we'll do winter. There's 4 seasons. I'm okay with skipping one.
A season. Well, we skip a season every year.
We skip fall.
And fall never gets
Fall
anything.
Gets no love.
No love from fall.
It gets the World Series. It gets the start of the NFL season, but no Salesforce love.
Nope.
I don't understand it.
Yep. So anyway, that's all I have to say about that.
That's it.
No, and part of me is amazed at how much they can keep going, and the velocity. They talk a lot about in scrumming velocity of the product releases. It's very impressive. But then when this type of stuff happens, it shows that there's flaws in the system that bugs can sleep through, and 2 of which I'm fighting with, and I guess this is why I'm sort of piling on here. One is that reporting issue I talked about before, right? That there's this one report with a filter on it in our org that takes, we just counted it, it was 65 seconds to load a report. It's less than 18,000 records, and it's a filtered report, and it takes over a minute.
Well, there's 18,000 total records in the
records,
object.
Yes.
It only returns maybe 100.
Maybe. Anyway, that, and then there's the accept meeting request bug that I was told that I've been fighting for over 2 years, was broken 2 years ago, or in 4 releases ago. I remember finding it, putting in a bug request. It went to known issues. Known issues then said it was we fixed in winter 14. Winter 14 didn't fix it. I had to put in a new bug. They said we're going to fix it in spring 14. And then I got the notice like a week ago. Sorry, can't make it to spring 14. We'll let you know.
You know why? Because nobody uses Salesforce events to actually invite people. I think we're the only ones.
That doesn't matter.
We're still the only ones.
They said it was just very hard to find. But that's the thing. It's like take a release and call it the we're not going to release stuff release. And we're going to fix everything that's on this. I mean, the known issues list, the big ticket. We're going to fix all that stuff. We talk about a little bit about to the core. It's not really new product stuff, but it's like fixing stuff that needs to be fixed. That it's not sexy. It's not fun. It's not nipples. It's just fixing things.
Speaking of nipples.
So I did bring it to the wrong place. I turned it wrong there.
Why don't I do some picks?
Best Segui ever. All right, well, let's hear your pick of the week. What is your CloudFocus App pick of the week, Justin?
I got a good one. So I was on the internet one day,
okay.
And I was like, oh, I really wonder if this band is playing in New York anytime soon. Okay. So I was like, I really want to see them. We had just gotten back from New Orleans.
Yes.
And I wanted to see Rebirth Brass Band. I was like, they weren't in New Orleans when I was there. I was like, I really want to see them. I know they play in New York. So
you wanted to see if the band was in town?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I go on the internet, and it's like, I did a little Google search, and it showed me this app called Bands in Town. All one word. Bands in Town.
Bands in Town.
You put it on your iPhone, and it asks you first if you would allow it to have access to all your music. So it goes through all of your music, and then it asks you, will you allow me to use your location? And you say, sure.
Oh, that's good.
And it uses your location, and then it goes, here's a bunch of stuff I think you might want to go see. Right. Based on your music library and where you live or where you are. Here's the people that are... It kind of comes up in like a... Sort of like a tag cloud.
Tag cloud?
Yeah. With artists, and you click on the artist. But you can also search.
Right.
And I actually found that Rebirth Brass Band is playing in New York in June. And I was able to just buy tickets to the event right in the app through TicketWeb. So, Bands in Town, free app, great for finding music that you otherwise, like, if you're just like, hey, it's Friday night, I want to go to a concert, open the app and just hit what's playing tonight near me, and it'll show you, like, all sorts of fun stuff. Really good app for people who like going to see live music.
That's cool.
It's very cool. It's well done. Really well done.
I like the reading the music, although my music is... basically based on my college days and high school days.
For you, it wouldn't do very well. But you're also not a live music person, so...
Right, but that doesn't matter. I mean, it does,
anyway,
but it doesn't.
It's a good app. It's good fun.
It's good fun.
Good, clean fun.
All right, so Bands in Town Concerts by Bands in Town Inc.
It's just Bands in Town, but no concert.
It's actually, that's what the name of it is it's actually the name in iTunes is Bands in Town Concerts, but okay.
Yeah, it's just called Bands in Town.
I'm just saying on the iTunes window that you went and looked at.
All right. Maybe they call it Bands in Town Concerts, but whatever.
But whatever.
All right, it's Bands in Town Concerts. I'm changing it.
Yeah.
There. Changed.
All
Done.
Right. My pick is going to be the most everybody in the world has already talked about pick, and it's both free and not free. And it's both... This is one of those things that we've been talking about for years. It hasn't happened, and now it's happened. And I'm a little excited, but not totally.
I haven't tried it yet.
Microsoft Office for iOS.
Yeah, I haven't tried it yet.
I have them all here.
How's it work?
It's okay. Well, so here's the weird thing. So
can I save stuff to places that I can actually get to them somewhere else?
So here's the thing.
You're going to have to tell me all about this, because I'm going to have questions.
I have not used it that much. I downloaded them. I started them all up. You can go into that one. I was trying to open up. I was actually trying to see if I could go from Dropbox into PowerPoint, and I can.
I have to sign in
This is the thing. So
to an Office 365 account.
let me explain.
All right.
So Microsoft, so you know this deal with Apple, right? Apple puts things on the store, and if you want to sell things through Apple, you have to pay what?
30%, right?
That's correct, 30%. Apple takes 30%. So people like Amazon and Microsoft, who have their own stores and have their own whatever, they could have done two things. One, they could have put an extra 30% on top of the price and said, fine, we'll just give you your tax. So this could have been, $13, and they'd give whatever, $3 off to Apple.
No, more than that. But
Or
okay.
the other way around. 30%. Okay, I was trying to get the other way around. $10, $9.99, and give $2.99 to Apple. They could have done that.
That's called mathematics.
That's called math. They could have done that. I was thinking 10 plus 30.
I know what you were doing.
But they decided to do it another way, which is kind of smart. It's all free. Word, PowerPoint, OneNote, and one other. Excel. Free.
Good for them.
Download them all free.
You definitely have to sign up for their service.
And if you want to use them, you got to sign up for their pay service.
Service. Not Surface,
Not
which
Surface.
is Microsoft
Very
Surface.
close. Pay. It's like $100 a year
Ugh.
for like
A subscription service?
it's a subscription service. Well, think of Office. Office costs hundreds and hundreds
I understand,
of
but
dollars.
once you buy it, you have it.
Yeah, but it still costs
But then
hundreds
it kind of
dollars.
like runs out of steam after 3 years, and then you get the new one. So I guess it's kind of like a subscription
Kind
service
of like that,
itself.
too.
So you purchased this?
I have not.
You have a free 30-day trial for this?
I have not done that either. Because you
Is
can,
there a free 30-day trial
Because you
for
can
this?
boot them up and you can just try things out and see templates and play with it. And you can view. I just don't think you can save.
So if someone sends you a Word document, an email, you can say open with Microsoft Office.
I think you can, yes.
But you can't really save it because where it wants you to save it's to Office 365, right?
To their cloud,
Right.
cloud, whatever.
Well,
Yes.
Office 365 is that product.
Yes. But then they have a cloud, whatever. Cloud. There's the
Office 365.
It's called
the
Sky
SkyDrive?
But they call it something else now. They call it like OneDrive. Anyway.
Whatever.
So, I mean, what's nice about it, other than the pricing is a little weird, it's free, but it's not free.
Oh, it looks like Office.
It looks like Office, and it
Sure.
feels like Office. And for those of you who've been waiting for the days of having Office on the...
Oh, this is read only.
Exactly.
I'm not allowed to do anything here, am I? Oh, yeah, I can't do anything without, like, a... whatever. Okay.
So, I think for let's see, for a small business, $5 per user per month, or $60 for the year. All right, that's getting to like Google Apps prices. It's kind of like you got Google Drive, the app. You can't really use it without Google Drive the thing, although they do offer a free service. I don't know. I think it's brilliant of Microsoft to get around Apple, and it's nice that they released this before Android. I mean, it's not on Android, right? They released it for the iOS.
People who have those Surface tablets are like, this is like their thing. They're like, and I have a full version of Microsoft Office.
Right.
And
Now
I'm
they
like-
can only say Outlook.
I'm like, that's so cool, dude. Go do your Excel on your tablet.
Yes.
That's what I say to people who say that. Sorry
That's
for
what you
those of you who are listening who
You
have
just pissed off
Microsoft
everybody.
Surfaces who go around and tout the ability to use a full version of Excel on it, because that's what I use my tablet for.
All right. So Office 365 Home Premium, $9.99 per month.
That's a lot to me, because you know what it is? I don't use those products. I don't use Excel. I don't use Word. I guess I use Excel more than anything, but strictly for loading data into Salesforce. Like, I
5
don't use these
PCs or
products.
Macs, 5 tablets,
Yeah,
and you get space.
sure.
Eh,
Give me the space.
it's not really that bad. $120. If I'm going to give it to my family,
Yeah.
$120 a year for 3 or 4 PCs max in my house, not really that bad.
I guess, but
Like,
why
my
wouldn't
kid
you
has
just be
really-
like, all right, here's a Gmail account, here's a Gmail account, here's a Gmail account. We all have free Gmail accounts, and oh, by the way, here's Google Drive and Google Docs and
true.
Google Sheets. Like, what are you and your family doing that you need Excel? that Google Sheets can't do, or that you need PowerPoint for.
Well,
clearly, family fun day is PowerPoint day.
do you know we're about to go on a trip and we put it all
You got
in
a
PowerPoint?
deck?
I do not have a deck.
And a budget in Excel?
I almost want to ban decks from Arkus. I want to have a deck-free society.
Arkus is very light on decks. We don't have very many decks.
Not very many.
We have decks when people make us make decks.
That's right. If you make us make a deck, we'll make a deck.
We'll do a deck.
And our deck will be pretty terrible because we don't do decks. I recently, and I'm going to blog about this in a bit.
I have a rule: wordless decks only. No words on slides.
Yeah.
Just pictures.
So I went and I presented alongside Salesforce the other day. I was at this thing that they put together, and we were invited as, sort of a partner in there.
Special guests.
Special guests. And so I sent. They were like, "Oh, do you have some slides?" I said, "Oh, okay, I'll send you some of my slides." And I'm proud of my slides. We got some, they're nice. They're okay. And so one of the Salesforce guys intermingles it with his slides. Right, so it's like his slide, my slide, his slide, my slide. And it was like watching, like Picasso, kid with crayon. Picasso, kid with crayon. Because their decks are made by like professional deck designers. They're graphic works of art. Like these just amazing graphic works of art. They're not decks. At that point, they're not in PowerPoint. They're like Photoshop. So they're not decks. They don't have words on them. They're pictures built by designers. They must have a room of designers who build nothing but decks.
Or a firm.
Or a firm that does decks. A deck firm. Anyway, it was embarrassing. Because here I have, like, traditional decks with, like, bullets.
Yep.
Bullets?
Bullets in the Arkus icon.
Yeah, baby.
And you're like, yeah, that's cool. It's Arkus circle icon.
It's like, because we don't do decks. Although I was not impressed, their decks were not in widescreen, and they were just putting them on widescreen screens.
So it had the blacks on both sides.
Yeah, it's kind of like really. If you're gonna
really, because last year at Dreamforce, it was like required that you use the widescreen template. I'm surprised that they didn't have just all widescreen.
I would like if some Salesforce user go into wherever you keep all your documents, and please tell me it's some central place, and just search for like .ppt and send me back the number. Like, is it 30,000? Is it like 35
Salesforce
billion?
is very deck heavy.
They are crazy.
It's a deck culture.
Yeah.
Culture of deck.
There's a backlash now. There's a whole thing. There's one that's saying that it's just they're terrible for meetings. They don't do well. It's not about creativity. It's like just everybody staring at a screen. I mean, I'm about like people looking at a screen during a meeting. I like that, but I want to show real stuff. Like showing pictures is just, or bullets. It's like, I don't know, don't need it. Anyway, that was a fun podcast.
That was a long one.
We just had.
I feel like we just did 2 podcasts for making up for last week.
Wait, let's check the time. It was 43 minutes.
That's
so yeah,
decent
that's
length.
2 20-minute podcasts.
Yeah.
All right. I say.
I feel good about that.
I feel good about that. So we will not be back next week.
No.
Because I will be on vacation because
You'll be staring at the beautiful beaches.
Or one beautiful beach in the beautiful island of Bermuda. Country of Bermuda.
It's an island too.
Yeah, that's both. Anyway, gonna have a good time. So we'll be back the following week. We'll have tons to catch up on. All sorts of good news. Maybe they'll fix Justin's bug. Maybe not.
I think it will be fixed by then. In
time for that, in case you miss us, you can always follow us on Twitter. Follow Justin at Just Edelstein. You can follow me at Jason M. Atwood and tell me about your experiences with PowerPoint decks. There's also the company at Arkus Inc., makers of Compliance Locker. Facebook.com/Arkus Inc. The Dreamforce. Nope, not going to post in the Dreamforce Portal group anymore because it's going away.
We have a success group.
So go to the success community group, which has more people in there anyway.
Really?
Yeah, it does. It's over 100.
Our group?
Yep.
Yeah, join the group.
Yep.
Come on, guys.
LinkedIn, Google+, and remember to subscribe and review us on iTunes. We love that. That is our favorite thing in the world, and it's the only way you can tell us you love us. Until then, this is Justin and Jason saying enjoy those cloudy